Hi guys, so Jonathan Hinder is a Labour MP who sounds like a member of Reform or somebody who's about to defect to Reform. He seems to think that it's possible to out-Farage on immigration. Have a listen to this.
When it comes to Reform, this is the one thing they've got. They've just got grievance politics.
So you will never win that battle, of controlling migration, controlling our borders, when you've got Reform breathing down your neck, from the right and indeed the Tories.
Well, no one's pretending this
and in the process, you're compromising your principles.
No, not at all. Not at all. There's nothing left-wing about having open borders and not having any control over who's in the country. Absolutely not. Voters in Pendle and Clitheroe, they're good, compassionate people. They just want control of their borders. And it is their entitlement that the government of the country should have control over that. So let me address your point. The Conservatives, one of the main reasons they were booted out was because they couldn't sort this out, right? So they let this spiral out of control. So they're irrelevant to this topic. People are not going to listen to them for many, many years. When it comes to Reform, this is the one thing they've got. They've just got grievance politics. They've just got immigration. Imagine if we actually sorted this out. We had a proper deterrent. We had that controlled, compassionate system. Then we'll get a hearing for all those other good things that the government are doing. But at the moment, it's getting crowded out with this because people just say, sort it out.
Okay. What he's talking about here, first of all, he mentions open borders. Who is advocating for open borders? Nobody's advocating for open borders. What does open borders actually mean? I still can't get a proper definition. Do they literally mean no checks coming in whatsoever? Because nobody's advocating for that. Closing down border control. When you arrive in the UK via a flight from any other country in the world, you have to go through passport control. They're going to get rid of passport control. Is anyone advocating for that? Because remember, when it comes to asylum seekers, which is the main point that most people are talking about, it represents 3% of all migration. 3% is small boats. And when people arrive in small boats, they enter a system. So how is that open borders? How is that no control over the situation, or a lack of control over the situation? Look, what is this guy arguing for, or what is he arguing against? I can't understand. Because once again, if you're saying that there are open borders, you have to point out where the open borders are. Or you also have to point out who is advocating for open borders, because I don't know who these people are. These fantasy people arguing for open borders. And second, if you're talking about controlling the borders, well, the borders are controlled. If you're coming in via small boat and you claim asylum, you enter the system. If you arrive in the country with a visa, you enter a different system. In what way are the borders not controlled? Now, if he wants to talk about jobs for people, I'm an advocate, like most people would be an advocate, for training up your own people to do the jobs that are available. Not just to rely on people from abroad, for a number of reasons, including there's the idea of brain drain. Taking people from poor countries to do jobs in your country is unethical because it creates problems in the home country. But you have to train up your own, but that costs money. And if you want to spend that money, you need to increase taxes in many cases. But nobody wants to talk about that. They want to talk about reducing taxes. So on the one hand, people want their own staff trained up, but they don't want to spend the money to do that. And on the other, they want to stop immigration because they're being told it's a bad thing. When there's 150,000 shortage in the NHS and 150,000 shortage, more or less, in social care. Honestly, this idea that you can out-Farage by just using rhetoric and saying, well, we'll do it better, or we're going to fix it, is not going to work. When he talks about deterrence as well, what does he mean by that? A deterrent for people coming in. If you create a safe route, the small boat crossings will end, or will be dramatically reduced. Then you can say, we have fixed the problem. Why don't you do that? Why didn't you even try that? As opposed to a one in, one out system that Farage can just sit on the sidelines and say, look, it's not working. If you actually create a safe route, you will reduce the small boat crossings, and then you can do a press conference and say, look, small boat crossings are down 50, 60, 80%, whatever it is. Why don't you at least try that? If it fails, you can try something else. But it seems nobody wants to talk about that. Something that people who actually understand immigration, like Zoe Gardner, have said that this would be a better approach. As opposed to, let's try and create deterrence because Nigel Farage likes deterrence. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.